Hey everyone, my name is Adam Bernard, interviewer and writer for The Takeover on SI. I just wanted to give you a quick heads up before you watch this interview that I conducted with Baron Corbin. This was recorded prior to his release from WWE on November 1st, but I felt strongly enough about this piece to get it out to you and for all of you to enjoy. Corbin gave his blessing on it as well, and I hope you take the time to watch, and I hope you enjoy the article and the piece that I put together on the story of Baron Corbin. Enjoy. Peace world, and welcome everybody to a special edition of The Takedown on SI. My name is Adam Bernard. Thank you so much for joining me again. My guest today needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He is a former United States champion. He is a former NXT Tag Team champion, and also Westchester's own Baron Corbin. How are you, sir? Thank you so much.
I always forget which arm it's on. I got my PA represent, baby. Represent.
Man, you know, I was just thinking about it before I came down to, I think it was Tampa. I have one of those flat brim elsewhere hats. It's with the PA logo with the gray on it. I was like, man, Corbin would probably love this. I got to get.
You're not a Westchester boy if you don't have an elsewhere hat.
I was going to say, or something elsewhere related. It's almost like a secret. I was explaining it to somebody. It's like a secret handshake, right? Like it's almost 100%. Like because it was such a small time in Westchester when you think about it. And it's only known by so many people. So like that, like I said, when I saw you that time in Philadelphia,
it was the crew, man.
I saw you with your arms out, and I'll never forget. I don't know if you remember this, but I'm sitting in the front row in Philly, and I looked at you and I went, it made this face, and you just like you were staring at me like, who the hell is this guy? You know? And that's what I messaged.
There's a connect there. We know it. You know, it's one of those moments.
I messaged Cam Taylor, and I was just like, "Yo, man, like this guy in wrestling Corbin." He's like, "Oh yeah," and he's telling me this, and like, so tell me, maybe I'll start there because I've always been curious, and I'm not sure if we've ever really talked about it before. When did you end up in Westchester? Like, how did that happen? Because I know you were, I think you were
crazy.
In Indiana, right?
Yeah, so I was playing for the Colts at the time, and I'd gotten released. And I'd just gotten there and was trying to get through training camp. Got through training camp, got to season 1, and things happened, and I got let go. And I was like, man, I don't really want to go home because it's kind of like, failing and going home with your tail between your legs. So I was like, I don't really want to go home back to Kansas City just because I'm going to see all my friends there and everybody's like, what happened? And, I'm still I'm a rookie, so I'm trying to get back on. And my uncle lived in Westchester at the time, and he was like, hey, just come stay with me, come train until you get picked up, and then you can go. And I was like, cool, that's what I'll do. That way I can avoid all those awkward conversations, in my opinion. And it was funny because we all grew up watching like CKY and all that stuff, and rolled into Jackass and whatnot. But I was like, it was like my first week there, and I was like, man, I need a drink. Like, hard week of training, I'm gonna go have a drink. And I ended up at the Note, and it was a really packed night. But this bigger dude kept bumping into me, and he was like, man, I'm so sorry because you're humongous. Don't kill me, that blah, blah, blah. Because at the time I was 330 pounds too. I was a big boy. Right. I was an offensive lineman. And I was like, dude, it's a ball. Like, if someone gets offended that you're getting bumped into, you got problems, right? And he's like, all right, cool. He's like, come upstairs and let's have a drink. And I was like, dope. I don't know anybody here. So yeah, I'll come up and hang out. And I walk up the stairs and someone jumps on my back. And I'm instantly like, who is on my back? And it was Dunn.
Oh wow!
And so it was Ryan Dunn jumped on my back, and because he was like, "Dude, you're huge," so he felt like he just had to jump on top of me. And then we drank till probably 4 a.m. that night. Went down and cooked in the kitchen. We made like grilled cheese sandwiches at 4 a.m. Completely unsafe because we were hammered, but we should not be in a kitchen and using a fryer at 4 a.m. when you can't see straight. And then so the next day they were like, yo, we played a softball game on Sundays. Come play. And ever since then, I just was in the crew of the boys.
Wow.
And I played softball with Cam, Caleb, Mike, Dunn, all those people. Such a great crew of people. And so I was there, I think 2 months before I got picked up in Arizona. So I spent about 8 weeks hanging out with the boys, training there. And then I got signed to Arizona. Finished the season in Arizona. When the season was over, I loved it so much in Philly that I went back. And so I ended up staying there for the whole off season that year. So it was like, 4 or 5 months, and stayed through the winter. Rented a dusty old apartment. It was awesome. It's like upstairs above Market Street, but it was like one over.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
it was
Yep.
a girl's apartment who was moving in with her fiance. So she's like, I still have the lease. If you want it, it's yours. I'm done. So I basically lived, on that main drag and just hung out with the boys every day and had a great time there. I would freeze to death in there. It was like this old dusty wood apartment. And like, it's funny because you're like, I'm an NFL football player and I'm living in this like apartment that's got no heat and there's a foot of snow outside. And,
Dude,
but I
it's
mean, I
just
could stumble home from the different bars with the boys, or random runs to Atlantic City, whatnot.
Oh my
All
gosh.
the trouble we caused there.
Oh, it's legit. Like, and I think about it, and I've talked to people about this before because I bring it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, Corbin's the homie from Westchester, and this, that, and the other. And it's so funny. Like, I am almost 99% sure that we interfaced at some point because those worlds, like Bam had his own world. Like, people don't quite understand that dynamic, but like Bam had his own world, and Dunn had his own world. But when they
100%.
collided, it was like it was all love everywhere. So like, I'm sure. And I know everybody from the town, and I promise we'll get into wrestling in a second, but I know everybody from the town has their own favorite, like Bam or Dunn story. Do you have a favorite Ryan Dunn story that you want to share?
I mean, him and I were so tight. It was really a lot of fun little ones, from, playing video games in the car shop and hitting each other with the cattle prods. But like, I think my favorite story of all time is when we went down to Atlantic City, me, Cam, Caleb, and Dunn, and we gambled until probably 7, and Zach was there too. We gambled and I have like videos on my phone till 7 a.m. But for some reason, Ryan had on these like probably insanely expensive snow boots. And so he was standing in these snow boots all night long while we were playing. We were playing craps. He had to go to the ATM like 6 times and give a fingerprint and all this stuff. And like, by the end, he was like in tears because his feet hurt so bad from just sweating in these snow boots all night. We're like, dude, your feet are rotten. They're gone. They're gonna have to chop them off. So he was freaking out about his feet. And then we were like, can we get some comp rooms just to sleep for a couple hours? Because we lost a ton of money that night. It was like 14 G's that night to combine.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a rough night. Yeah, we were having too much fun. There was like, Atlantic City's got some characters, man. So when they're joining the craps table, we kept making up names for all the people at the craps table, and they were loving it. And it was just, we were just losing, but didn't care. So they comped us some rooms and comped us like a breakfast buffet. So we all went like 8 waffles and with giant whipped cream on it. And dude, it was just nonstop laughing all night. But like, we got to the room and I have a video. Ryan finally takes the boots off and it clears the room. I mean, it was the worst. Like, his feet had been sweating for 12 hours straight standing at a craps table. And me and Cam were like, we're going to the other room. We went passed out and the Caleb sleeping in a little chair, and Zach and Ryan were in their room, dude. And then when we drove back the next day, we all got tattoos that said shenanigans. So we all have a tattoo and it says shenanigans, and it says the date, but it doesn't say the year. So I'm not even positive what year that was that we did that. We forgot. It says like shenanigans 11. It's like 11, 12, 13, because it was 2 days worth of partying in Atlantic City.
Hilarious.
But I don't know what year that was because we forgot to put the year on our tattoos. And Cam got his huge. Cam's all the way across his chest. Mine's on my foot. Got him where Caleb's was done left-handed on his thigh. It was funny.
Oh my God. I'm gonna have to ask Cam when I get off of this call. I'm gonna text him and be like, yo, can you show me your tattoo? Can you show me the shenanigans?
Oh yeah, he'll show you his shenanigan tattoo.
So you're in Westchester. You go to Arizona. I'll tell you mine off air because I don't know if I could tell it here. But
I have more than a few that cannot be on.
The next time we're together, I'll tell you. We'll drink some coffee and talk about it. But so you go to Arizona and then you're done with the NFL. How do you end up in wrestling? Like what's the transition like?
I'd met a manager. He was a band manager for a lot of bigger bands, and he asked me. We were on a cruise, and he asked me, he's like, what's the next thing for you if football is not it? Like, I was like, man, I'm kind of over football, so I'm ready to move on past it. Like, I had an injury in my shoulder, and the way it was handled to me left a little bit of bad taste in my mouth of just like it being, I think that's what kind of got me let go was because if my shoulder got hurt worse, they would have had to pay me like, the season salary or whatever, because I would have had to have
Right.
surgery. It wasn't bad enough I had to have surgery, but I could still play, and they didn't want to. It's a paper league, they a lot of things come down to stuff like that with contracts. When you're a bubble guy, I was a bubble guy. Obviously, if I was a starter, it would be a different story. But when you're a bubble guy who can be replaced fairly easy, you got to have all those things in a row. You got to be ready. You got to be healthy. You got to be that. So it just kind of left me with a funky taste. I got replaced by a guy with Division One and didn't have a janky shoulder at the moment. So I was just kind of angry. And I was like, well, I either want to go to WWE because, that's always been a plan to go to WWE and try to do that world, or I want to go to UFC and fight. And he was like, dude, go to WWE. He's like, it's a longer career. You have way more longevity, not so damaging on your health. And he was right, obviously, because I'm 13 years later here, still in the WWE. But he knew Neil, and Neil ran the music for WWE, and he still does. And he's like, I'll call him when we get back to land and put your name in his ear. And so he called Neil. Neil called Johnny Ace, and then they called me, and they brought me out for a tryout, and I was signed like 3 weeks later.
Wow.
I came in at 325, and they're like, well, gotta slim down a little bit and all that before you show up. So I had to go through like all the physicals and all that, and got signed, man. Then moved to Tampa and started at FCW. So it was just kind of like a perfect lineup of events of a little bit of luck, and I'd already built a name for myself with football and getting in fights at training camp. So I had that kind of little name behind me, and then being a big guy who can move well, strong, it obviously sparks interest right away. And then I came in and cut a promo for Dusty, and he liked it, and I did a week tryout, and here we are.
When you won the US title, tell me more about that. Like when you're in that moment, and how cool is it to have the title? When you win the title at that point, did you think like, okay, this is going to be the next step? Like I'm on that trajectory, right? You're in the lone wolf character at the time, right? I'm trying to remember. And you win the title. Tell me about your thoughts when you win that, and then you move into transition into Money in the Bank. Like, what is that whole period of life for you like that?
I mean, it was awesome because and I still the U.S. title and then NXT tag titles have been my only titles I've ever held. And, I want to hold them all. I want to hold the Intercontinental. I want to hold U.S. I want to hold World, Universal, all those things. And if you don't want to hold those things, you don't belong here. But getting that opportunity and running with AJ Styles, who I think is one of the greatest of all time, especially at that time on SmackDown, like he was the guy on SmackDown for a good amount of time. And Ty Dillinger at the time, like it was awesome to run with those guys. And Ty was a part of the story the whole time, and it was a way to kind of keep me and AJ apart, because the ultimate goal was to go to me and AJ for that title. Then here the craziest thing is, so Ty was in the mix with me, with AJ, and all of that. And then when we heard that it was going to be me and AJ at the pay-per-view for the title, we both said, man, Ty's paved the road for us with this feud. He's really helped us build this feud, and he's a part of it. Like, he should be a part of the match at the pay-per-view. And we went to Vince, AJ and I, and we're like, hey, we understand it's an awesome singles opportunity for the pay-per-view, but we think that Dillinger deserves to be in this match as well. And he's like, if you guys want it, you got it. And so we actually, got to have Ty be a part of that match by going to Vince. And it was really cool for that to happen. And it was a cool moment. And the match, that's one of my favorite matches of all time, especially because I think the crowd 100% believed that Dillinger was going to come away with that title. The whole arena was chanting 10 for him. And it was such a cool thing. And then, when I got it and won, and then they also threw a mic in my face right after that I was unprepared for. So that's where I came up. I was like, I always have stuff in my back pocket. I got to have promo lines at least that I get from movies or I get from music or whatever it is. And I saw some guy say he's going to buy a boat and float down a river of tears. And so I was like, that's the line I'm going to use right now. And so I threw that out there, because sometimes they just do that to keep you on your feet. But winning that title was huge for me, because it was my first major title on the main roster. And that was my thing. I was like, man, I'm on a perfect rise, coming in, winning the Andre, and then going to the US. Like, I'm on that rise I want to be on. 6 months from now, I'm envisioning holding a world title,
Right.
I thought the Lone Wolf was awesome, firing on all cylinders, great attitude, great music.
Yeah.
That saltiness, the believability that I can beat anybody in the ring, and that was a great position to be in. So it was awesome. And then I also got to do some fun stuff with like Steamboat on some live events.
Yeah.
Him being one of the greatest title holders of all time with the U.S. title. It's just a cool thing to have that, and that's your pat on the back from the company, is you're doing a good job. When you get to hold a title, it was not something that was just handed to me. I've earned everything I've gotten in this world because I didn't come from the other world like some of these guys who come in from Japan or the indies that have a big name in the wrestling world. So I've had to kind of fight for everything I've earned.
Yeah, and I think you do a fantastic job too of that. And the Lone Wolf character was one of my favorite of the string of characters that you've had.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about doing the King Corbin character, or you think about the bum ass Corbin character, or you going into Happy Corbin, was there any shout out to Pat McAfee, by the way?
Right.
Was there anything when you were doing those characters that you were like, because the King Corbin was really effective as a heel, right? Like you played
Absolutely.
a really great heel. I know my kids hated your guts when they would watch you on TV, and I mean that's the point, right? Like you're doing your job, right? Is there anything during those runs that you were like that they had you do, or that was part of your characters? You're like, maybe I don't really like this, or I don't think it's connecting the way it should. And at that time, did you feel like it was like, all right, these are all going to be like the next steps for me? Like these are all part of that conga line where I can go into the next thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, for me, longevity is key. I want to have a 15-year career. That's what I would love. I would love to have. You look at the list of guys to get 15 years, it's not very long. And, I'm at 13 now. So if I can fight like hell and get 2 or 3 more, amazing. If I can go past that, even better. And I'm a big guy that it's like adaptability, and you have to evolve and change to keep yourself relevant. And like, if you look at what I've done over, 8 or 9 years on main roster television, being a constant staple for 95% of that. I was on TV every week, and there were times when I was like the constable where I was pulling like 7 segs a show. But I think it's because I was always very good at adapting and taking what they're giving me and just making the most out of it. The King thing was awesome. That was all Heyman. That was Heyman's idea to take me down that route. And I think the pandemic kind of killed the King, because that was one of those things that needed to be in front of people. It was all about the presentation, from being carried to the ring to the obnoxious giant 8,000-pound fur coat and the crown and all of those things. That's something that needs to be presented to a live audience, because it just receives better that way, where it irritates people when I'm looking down on them and waving at them from my giant throne that I'm being carried on. It just has more of an effect that way. The constable, that was just fun. Like, you're going to give me a role where I get to abuse my power. There was one time I had a match, I think it was Finn Balor at the time, where I got to lose and then restart the match like 3 times until I won. And like every time I restarted the match, like you could genuinely feel the anger and frustration from the audience. Like, it was amazing. I think that the Sad Corbin, it was just supposed to be like a 2-week thing. I think that was originally the plan. Like, let's get you upset and then get you back. And then I grabbed onto it and I was like, this is so different. This is so fun. And I can show my range. And I have no ego. I have 0 ego. So like something like that is not going to, like, there are some people in our world that would be like, you want me to look like a bum and do this? But I'm a WWE superstar. It's like, I have no ego. Like, you want me to do that? Hell yeah, let's go. Like, this is going to be fun. Let's turn it up to 12. That's something I've always learned from Cena. How do you take what they give you and turn it into gold? And it's a lot of work. I mean, you have to fully commit. There's times that I have to sit in the back and kind of take 20 or 30 minutes, like getting my head in the space of like going out there and just being disheveled and a total disaster. Like, I would walk to the ring and people are legit trying to hand me $20 bills. I had a lady in Houston. I was leaving the building in Houston, and a woman shoved money in the window. And I was like, I don't need your money. Like, Jacob, he's one of the Fox execs. Like, he sent me a message that his daughter wanted to give me her allowance because she felt so bad for me. Like, I was all in on that. And then I think Happy Corbin was the one that I really had to, go, okay, this is not my favorite. Like,
Right.
how do I make this awesome? And like the Vegas thing was so fun, and it did massive numbers on social with winning the money back.
Yeah.
But I the music, like they were playing it. I was like, this is a joke. This is not my music, right? And they're like, yeah, it is. And I was like, I can't walk out this door to that. Like, and then Hunter, gave me a thing. Like he was like, look at Shawn Michaels music. He's like, you would think, like, you hear that the first time, you're like, really? This is what you want? And now it's one of the greatest themes of all time. It's what you make of it. And so,
Sure.
Hunter was a guy who really opened my eyes to that. He was like, it's what you make of it. And I've always done that, but that was like one of the harder ones because I am a little more like rock and roll. Give me my motorcycle, my bourbon, my tequila, my meat. But so that was a different one, but I had all the hats too, so that worked out well. I like those fedoras. I just, I live in Florida and married a Puerto Rican, so I need my beach hats, but my fedoras.
I love it.
So that worked out well. So that was great. And then then kind of the tides changed when everything was changing in WWE, and we went to JBL route. And I think that it struggled. I can't put my finger on why it struggled. I think that people and John and myself wanted more out of like this. I wanted John to be able to like decapitate a few people, and it was it's a process of getting him back in the ring and getting him doing that. And he was kind of just became like a mouthpiece for me and an introduction, kind of thing where he would get the crowd all riled up for me. But I think we all kind of just wanted a little bit more from that, and it just didn't click. It is, I'll take the fall for it. I'm happy to do that because JBL is one of the greatest of all time, especially one of the greatest heels of all time. And sometimes things just don't click. It is what it is, and that was one of them. But there was like a moment where he hit Bobby Lashley in one of our matches, and you heard the crowd like boom, and I was like, that's it. That's what we want more of. But it was like we had to walk a line because it's just one of those things. And so when that didn't click, it was time to rebuild. It was time to kind of start over. So it's been another evolution where I went back to NXT. They asked if I wanted to go work Carmelo Hayes down there for a month, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to. Like, I'm not doing anything on main roster right now. Let's go while we figure out what I'm doing. And then I got down there and got around Sean and Baldo and Russo, the writer, Terry Taylor, and like it just, the energy down there is special, man. Like you walk in that door and you want to create, you want to work, and you want to evolve, and you want to make this special because all these dudes are so hungry down there. Like they want to get to the main roster. So now they got a guy who's been up there for 8 or 9 years coming back into their house, and so it elevates them and it elevates me because I got to keep up with these dudes. Like I had the first match and I was like, whoa, this is a different pace. Like we're moving here. Like this is fast. And so I was like jumping on the Peloton and going to boxing and doing all these things to really ramp up my cardio because I was like, man, if I want to hang with these dudes, like I gotta have my cardio in check. And I did that, and it was fun. But having Sean and Matt Bloom and Russo and Terry and Norman, everybody in that building is so special. Getting behind you and going, okay, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, let's ask if I can stay here for a few months. Like, let me rebuild here. Like, let's take all that I've done and get rid of it. And then that's where we came up with kind of like that burn the ships. Like, let's throw everything in an incinerator, burn all these old characters. Let's start over and let's be who I am. And like, that's why I think this evolutionist character I'm on now, the audience like loves it because it's very authentic. Like this is the first time in my career, I've been doing a bunch of dark matches lately, trying to get back in the mix on main roster. And they're chanting my name the whole time, whether it's a singles match like I had last week, or it was with, tag match with Cruz. They're chanting my name. They're wanting to see me beat people up, and they're buying it when I'm in there. Where they're at the end of that stuff with the JBL. Like I don't think anybody, even the Happy Corbin, nobody was expecting me to win matches. Like going to WrestleMania against Drew McIntyre, nobody expected me to win that match. They all knew Drew was going to win. We were going to give him all the show, but they all knew the outcome prior to starting. So for me to get back to a place where they expect me to win and do big things is huge. And so having all those guys in NXT get behind me, and Hunter allowing me to stay there for a while and rebuild and do those things was really special because I think it not only did it light a fire that like reinvigorated everything that I'm doing, but I think it brought a lot of authenticity to me and what I'm presenting to the audience, which is why I think they connect so well with it right now, because they're getting I see it on social. They're like, man, this is the real Baron Corbin. Like, this is a dude I want to hang out with. This is a dude I want to watch kick people's ass, and this is a dude that I'm going to support. So it's really awesome, and I owe all that to, you know, Hunter and Sean and everybody in NXT.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for me, like what I get from the character, even the work he did with Apollo Crews and even like the stuff with Bron Breakker. Like there was definitely a level of authenticity to you being true to yourself, right?
Yeah,
like I've heard Bruce and those guys say all the time, like the most popular characters are who you are as an individual, and certain pieces of that turned up to 11, right?
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's what you're doing, and you're accentuating that really well. Like I saw the Paris crowd, man. They were like, that was one of the coolest things. Like just from a personal level, like, you know, that's freaking huge, man. Like that must have been overwhelming in that moment to hear them chanting for you
on multiple levels.
Everything.
Yeah, it was unexpected. Number one, like I had no idea. And like when my music hit, like I said, the way that place blew, I was like, what? Who do they think is here? Like that can't be for me. And then it was like I said, dude, I was standing in the ring looking across at Rick Boogs, and I was like shaking my head. I was like, I'm sorry, dude, like, you're screwed. Like I have there's legit nothing I can do in this moment to fix this. Like, it is what it is. And like I had to back up too, because like it like you getting that lump in your throat. I was like, I'm gonna shed a tear standing here in the middle of the ring. Like that's how much it moved me. It was crazy. And you know, the YouTuber that told me that, you know, be ready, that might happen. You know, he's like, they appreciate your work. Like they feel like you've been held down a little or whatever it is. You know, I attribute to like a kind of the Daniel Bryant movement a little bit of where like they're like, the man's holding him down. Like let's get behind this. And that was the biggest movement. I mean, mine's a small percentage of that, but his was, you know, earth shaking. But same with Kofi. Like it just becomes this organic thing, and it can't be stopped when it goes that way. So that's what I feel like. It's a minute version of those, but it's carried over. It's carried over to the States and NXT, and the stuff with Braun was so natural and fun, where we were just like locker room. I think it was funny because Russo's like, I always give Braun a lot of trouble, like a younger brother football locker room buddy, like pick on him a little bit. He's a little sensitive sometimes, so I can get him riled up pretty quick, and it's a lot of fun to do that, to irritate him. So he's like, I want that on camera. So a lot of our stuff on camera was not scripted. It was just us kind of riffing, and like even the Wolf Dogs thing, like he said that to be funny, and then it stuck. And it became something, and people still want that. Like I would love, you know, to watch Braun. You know, he just won the title again Monday night. I would love to see him go on and be world champion, and then a year and a half from now, we do a Wolf Dogs reunite. Like, let's get some tag titles on the main roster. Let's beat some people up, or let's start a crew. Let's start a little motorcycle gang. He had he won up to me on that motorcycle, and the pay-per-view that we did for NXT. You know, we could start a little motorcycle crew that would be cool. Like I've always thought that would be fun to have a little biker gang, because it could be on like multiple shows. You could have, you know, members on Raw, members on SmackDown. You could have prospects in NXT that wear a little prospects patch. I think there'd be something dope to starting a crew like that. But
I think that would be that would be really dope. I think, but also too, like from another perspective though, I could see if you're telling that story from a power dynamic struggle, right? Like suppose that Braun has that heavyweight title. Is there a possibility for you to have that, you know, almost like almost what's his name, Jackson Clay kind of power dynamic, right? Like I could really feel that taking steam. One of the things,
beating each other up too. So
hey, listen, I think it would get over really well, man. I think Hunter, if you're listening, I know you listen to the show, so I appreciate you, sir. If you're listening, I think this is money here. But I know that I've heard through the grapevine that you have a reputation of being like one of the safest workers in the industry, like one of the safest people in the ring. I think a lot of what you've done in your career is directly attributed to that, like your Kurt Angle's final match, right? You do the segment with The Rock on the very first SmackDown on Fox, right? Yeah. You do the whole thing with Becky Lynch, the explosive, controversial, you know, move with her. Do you see yourself in a position where you could potentially be in that last run with John Cena? And I think you could. But
I would love it. I mean, if any moment you get to spend in the ring or backstage or anything with John is extremely valuable. The dude is on my Mount Rushmore and forever will be as a human being and as a WWE superstar. Like he's a special enigma, if you will, with a wealth of knowledge. Like there's no one with a better mind for what we do. And I got to learn a lot from him. And there's little tidbits I've taken from my whole career from John. And when I get frustrated, I can call him and go to the gym and work out or whatever it is. And I can learn, or he can tell me to step back, get out of my head, or, all of those things. So to be a part in any aspect, whether it's as a teammate or against John, I would love that. But yeah, I mean, I pride myself in having the ability in the ring to look like I'm killing you without actually killing you. Like there's a special art to it. And I think when people watch what I do, you get that kind of, dude, he just laced him in the face, or he just dumped him this way. Like I can suspend that belief that what we do is, entertainment, and make it look very real without actually killing a dude. So, like I said, I think I'm one of the best at that, and I take pride in that, and I want to be able to go out there and put on a match with a Seth Rollins or a Kurt Angle, 5 nights a week if I have to, and I want them to want to be in there. I mean, there's times as I won't put names out there, but we're in a big tag match and they're screaming, "Tag Corbin back in! You're killing me!" so there's that, and it's something to be proud of, because not everybody can do that.
Last question. What do you think Baron Corbin's legacy will be with WWE?
Man, I ask myself the same thing all the time. I think there's a bunch of different logos and stuff that people would attribute to it. Different levels people would attribute to me and what I do, whether it's angry internet fans, thinking I'm a bottom level guy or at best mid level. And then there's people who think I deserve to be world champion. I think my legacy will be, a guy that can be put in any situation and make it work. I think, again, that's something not everybody can do. Man, that's I almost dropped an F-bomb. That's like
I would have bleeped it out. It's fine. You're good.
I just what I want it to be and what it will be may be different. I would love to be a guy that gets invited to the Hall of Fame in 10 years from now. As having a long career, and I like to. I mean, to me, Kane is one of the greatest of all time, and he's been world champ for one time for a very short period of time, but he's known as a guy who always kind of was in the mix. He was a legitimate competitor. He was never, anywhere near the bottom of the roster. He adapted to corporate Kane and all of those things, and the funny stuff with Daniel Bryan. Like I would just like to be kind of that army Swiss knife, I guess, in the fans' eyes, if you will, like a guy who can do anything and who will entertain people. I mean, that's my ultimate goal, is to get out there and entertain people, whether they're cheering for me or they're throwing their drinks and popcorn at me, or you're a 98-year-old woman giving me the middle finger, whatever it is. Like, and like I said, I want to get to that, 15-year mark or whatever. So I don't know, but I would like my, if I'm looking at it in my eyes, I want to just be considered like an incredible entertainer. It's awesome to be able to do this and travel the world and get to do the things I do. I mean, Monday I was at the Arizona Cardinals football game with a couple of the UFC guys, and being a part of that, and then getting to go do stuff to help, Special Olympics or youth, or be a part of that, the community stuff, like that's also important. So, man, it's not a very good answer of like straight to the point of what I want my legacy to be, because it's kind of all over the place, like my career has been, where, I'm in the main event for 2 years, and now I'm fighting back to get some time on TV to prove myself once again and prove my talent and my skill. And I truly believe I can hang with anyone on the roster, in the ring or on the mic. So just, fighting like hell to get back to that spot. And, we don't know. We'll see what happens.
I think that was a perfect answer, though, Fred. If I may say so myself. Now, it's hard to ask. That's a difficult question to answer. I mean, it's
I mean,
it's a
like
lot.
you look at a Roman Reigns. What's your legacy? He's gonna be one of the greatest champions of all time, one of the greatest heels of all time, one of the greatest babyfaces of all time. Like, I think I've accepted that that's not going to be my legacy. So how do I make the best of what I have? And I think I'm doing that.
If I may, sir, it may not be your legacy, not yet, but I think it should be.
There's always a not yet.
Well, listen, man. One quick thing I promise before we wrap up here.
No, I'm hanging out. I'm going to get another coffee here in a minute.
I was going to say that's what I was going to ask is about your coffee company. I wanted to make sure you plug that here, make sure people know where to find it. I bought some myself. It's absolutely fantastic.
It's
I
awesome,
enjoyed
right?
it. So good. Where can people pick it up? What got you into the coffee business and what made you decide to go through it? And also, I have to apologize about sending you that message that time before I came to Tampa, insulting you by almost bringing you Wawa coffee. After I sent it, I was like, what the hell was I thinking? What was I doing? What the hell's wrong with me? Yeah.
I mean, the easiest place is if you go to my Baron Corbin WWE Instagram, there's a link to it. Open Air Coffee is my coffee company, openaircoffee.co. And you can go to the website or you can go to the Instagram page, which is OA Coffee Roasters, and pick it up. What got me into it, I'm a big wine, whiskey, tequila guy. I like the flavor profiles. I like the different regions. All the stuff comes from the different flavors. And I can't always obviously be having, drinks and trying to lean up a little bit. So it's cut into my booze for sure. So coffee kind of fills that gap, I guess, sometimes with like really diving in and learning about it and creating and roasting. And it's just become like was a hobby, and now it's turning into a business because it does well. You can subscribe, you can just buy bags. It doesn't really matter how you go about it, but we're getting coffee from Costa Rica. I've got one coming in from Congo right now. I got one from Nicaragua. I got one from Ethiopia coming in. Getting to roast them and taste the different profiles and all of those things. And then now we're opening 8,000 square foot community coffee roastery here in Tampa. Me and some of the guys from Yellow Rooster, we're going to open that, and it's going to be a place where anybody going to a coffee shop or a micro roasting company, they can come and roast their coffee there, buy their coffee, bag their coffee. Like, it's going to be a one-stop shop for your coffee business, and it's going to help a lot of people in the coffee world because owning a coffee roaster is expensive. I mean, they're like, for a big 35 kilo roaster, 180 grand. Like, coffee shops, not everybody can do that, but if they have a passion for it, now they can just come to our facility and rent it for a couple bucks and save them the overhead on a roaster, on a separate building for their roaster and storage for their coffee, and all that can all be done here.
That's amazing, man. I can't wait to see it when it's all set up and open up. Baron Corbin, I want to thank you again so much for your time, sir. I really appreciate it. Always great to see you, and we'll catch up again soon.